Happy Halloween. Or Feliz Dia de los Muertos. Happy Day of the Dead. Welcome. Two rituals with very different origins that come from very different places. I've always wanted to know, what are their origins? They both deal with the realm between the living and the dead. What does that tell us about our own beliefs? About our own instincts? About our humanity? I want to know. Do you guys want to know? Okay, let's dive right in. Let's start with Halloween. This actually goes back to, thousands of years, to roughly 500 BC, for the time of the Greek philosophers like Plato and Socrates. It goes all the way back to the Celts and their festival of Samhain. Samhain is central to the celebrations of life and death and agriculture. It represented a time on the day that we now celebrate Halloween, October 31st, where the veil between the living and the dead thinned, so much so that the spirits could wander through that veil and into our realm. Now, let's start to think about that. This is a culture that comes from the far north of what is now Europe, and it would have been a spooky time. The transition from summer to winter is one of apprehension. It goes into these long, dark, cold winters. You can imagine the mist rolling up and the fields beginning to become brown and barren, and you've got all your crops, but now you're getting ready for the dark, silent nights that go on forever. It's spooky. So in that celebration of Samhain, this old pagan celebration, they would dress up in a bunch of animal skins and they would light bonfires and they would perform divinations and rituals. And some of those rituals would be meant to scare away or ward off the spirits. I don't think any of those spirits would have been scared at a modern day Halloween party. Maybe more excited. You know what I'm talking about. Or just have a really big sugar crashing, excited spirits wandering through the streets of a modern Halloween party. Probably a far stretch from the original festivals. However, it is still a holiday which plays around with this realm, the boundary between two worlds, the living and the dead. For the Celts, this was a time that would have been spooky. It would have been apprehensive. But the festival today that we know of as Halloween has found its roots in that existential questioning still. What lies between the realms? Let's go to the other side of the planet, all the way over to Mesoamerica in a much later period, into the time of the Aztecs. For the Aztecs, this original version of what became Dia de los Muertos was known as, in English, the Great Feast of the Dead. I can't pronounce the Aztec name. I don't want to butcher it. But that's what it was called, the Great Feast of the Dead, or at least that's the translation. This took place in a time when things were lush, when they were green. Imagine what is now modern day Mexico City, but was previously Tenochtitlan, as filled with hanging gardens and what they call floating gardens, and people were happy. There was food everywhere. Everything was growing. It was the height of the rainy season, at the end of all of this, height of the food production, and there was a celebration to be had between the realms with the spirits of the past. They would invite the spirits back to visit. They would light copal and incense and perform rituals, and also they would lay marigold everywhere, which the yellow leaves of which was believed to guide the spirits home back to the relatives by the yellow color of the leaves. Very different belief system and way to look at the spirits of the past, but also still exploring that realm between the worlds, exploring what lays beyond. So then how did they roughly end up now in modern day in the same time period? The answer to that question is not exactly all that spiritual, it's more geopolitical. Enter the Spanish, they show up, they see this incredible celebration, and there's elements that they try to merge into their own celebrations of the dead, specifically All Saints Day and All Souls Day, which are on November 1st and November 2nd, and they bring it over on the calendar that they have to that. But still, the marigolds can still be seen, the incense still burns, and the Day of the Dead is a feasting festival to commune with our relatives. And for Halloween, you can carve a pumpkin, which, by the way, was originally a turnip. Could you imagine carving a turnip? I wouldn't have wanted to carve a turnip back in the day. I just recently learned that there was this tradition to carve turnips to scare away a spirit known as Stinky Jack. Could you imagine carving a turnip? That would be very difficult. Be grateful for the innovation of pumpkins. Much better. But you can imagine a vivid, wild, beautiful celebration. For the Celts, they took the spiritual and mysterious celebration of Samhain and brought it into a blended version with All Saints' Day, which became known as All Hallows' Eve, and then eventually Halloween. Two different celebrations celebrating the realm to the beyond. But what's even more interesting is that these kinds of celebrations that celebrate the realm between the living and the dead being lifted for moments of time happen all over the world, from Japan's Oban festival to festivals in Cambodia or India or elsewhere. You see celebrations where there is a day that door opens between the two worlds. And it just is another example of our deeply held human tradition of confronting our cycles. So there you have it. We like to celebrate the beyond, whether it's spooky or really quite sweet or something in between. You know, it's a time of year to embrace our impermanence and also to have fun. So be safe out there. Carve your pumpkins or maybe your turnip if you want to go old school. Although I will warn you, it's a lot harder. I've tried, doesn't work that well. Or whether it's making offerings to loved ones, building your ofrenda, or if it's something else that I have yet to learn about. Happy, spooky, beautiful days. I'm Albert Lin. I would love to continue to make more of these and dive into it, so subscribe, but also leave me your comments. I want to know, I really do want to know, what are the other rituals out there that we haven't even yet talked about? There's more to come. Thanks, guys.